Good evening. Welcome to Frederick P. Rose Hall. It's the House of Swing, and it's also the home of Jazz at Lincoln Center. Thank you for coming tonight. Tonight we're the site of the 2012 National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters Award ceremony and concert. Now please welcome the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis. And now, joining the orchestra are very special guests, Grace Kelly and NEA Jazz Master, Mr. Phil Woods. Now, please welcome NEA Jazz Master, Mr. Ramsey Lewis.
What better way to kick off this night of celebrating jazz music with the jazz masters we're here to honor than to feel the power and the swing of the music itself. That was past master Dizzy Gillespie's composition, Things to Come, brought to us by the incomparable Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with jazz master Wynton Marsalis and joined by fellow jazz master Phil Woods and rising star Grace Kelly. Let them hear it. What do you think? That's what it's all about. Good evening. I'm honored to be a jazz master and to welcome you and everyone logged on to our live webcast at NEA.gov or listening on Sirius XM's Real Jazz Channel, WBGO Radio, or NPR Radio. Indeed. Over these last 30 years, the NEA has named 128 extraordinary men and women as jazz masters, bestowing on them a financial award and amplifying their achievements to the nation. At the same time, the NEA has supported jazz education, touring, and performances by a myriad of programs for thousands of Americans, consistently reinforcing the value and values of jazz in our collective cultural consciousness. In light of this important anniversary, we'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you to the NEA and its partners for so many years of tireless jazz advocacy. Indeed. Your efforts have given our music and our family of practitioners and champions the respect and attention for which we are truly, truly grateful. Throughout this evening, the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis and special guest jazz masters will be joined on the bandstand by some of the rising young stars in jazz as they stand on their shoulders, or tonight literally stand next to them, declaring that this music is vibrant, that it's here now, and it will be here forever. Right? Now I'd like to acknowledge families of 7 of our late NEA jazz masters. Please hold your applause until the end. Wife of Benny Carter, class of 1986, Hilma Carter. Wife of Dexter Gordon, class of 1986, Maxine Gordon. Wife of Luther Henderson, class of 2004, Billy Allen Henderson. Wife of Andrew Hill, class of 2008, Joanne Robinson Hill. Wife of Milt Jackson, class of 1997, Sandra Jackson. Son of Jackie McLean, class of 2001, Renee McLean. And finally, wife of James Moody, class of 1998, Linda Moody. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the National Endowment for the Arts is proud to recognize this stellar group of artists whose lifelong contributions define the highest standards of jazz. Please welcome the NEA Jazz Masters. Muhal Richard Abrams, class of 2010. Toshiko Akiyoshi, class of 2007. George Avakian, class of 2010. David Baker, class of 2000. Kenny Barron, class of 2010. Candido Camero, class of 2008. Ron Carter, class of 1998. Jimmy Cobb, class of 2009. Ornette Coleman, class of 1984. Paquito de Rivera, class of 2005. Curtis Fuller, class of 2007. Benny Golson, class of 1996. Chico Hamilton, class of 2004. Jimmy Heath, class of 2003. Jon Hendricks, class of 1993. Nat Hintoff, class of 2004. Bobby Hutcherson, class of 2010. Ahmad Jamal, class of 1994. Lee Konitz, class of 2009. Yusuf Latif, class of 2010. Hubert Laws, class of 2011. Yours truly, Ramsey Lewis, 2007. David Liebman, class of 2011. Delfeo Marsalis, class of 2011. Wynton Marsalis, class of 2011. Tom McIntosh, class of 2008. Dan Morgenstern, class of 2007. Annie Ross, class of 2010. Gunther Schuler, class of 2008. Jimmy Scott, class of 2007. Cecil Taylor, class of 1990. McCoy Tyner, class of 2002. Frank West, class of 2007. Randy Weston, class of 2001. Gerald Wilson, class of 1990. Phil Woods, class of 2007. And Joe Wilder, he's with us tonight. Indeed. Let them hear it. They're here somewhere. They're all here. And now, join me in welcoming the chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts, Rocco Landesman.
Thank you, Ramsey. It is wonderful to be back here at Jazz at Lincoln Center, the House of Swing. And I would like to thank our host for the evening, especially Board Chair Lisa Schiff, Executive Director Adrian Ellis, Executive Producer Laura Johnson, and of course, Wynton Marsalis. I would also like to thank our colleagues at BMI, who hosted a reunion luncheon earlier today and kicked off today's celebration in great style. I would like to give a warm welcome to 3 of our National Council of the Arts members who have joined us today: Aaron Dworkin, who is new, Irvin Mayfield, and Barbara Prey. Thank you. And I'm looking out at everyone gathered tonight, and I'm knocked out by the concentration of talent in this room. How about one more hand for all of the past jazz masters who have gathered today? There are several people we would have loved to have had with us here tonight, but circumstances did not make that possible. Fortunately, they are all tuned in to arts.gov, watching our live stream. And I would like to especially acknowledge one person tuned in from home tonight: the reigning dean of our jazz masters, who will soon celebrate his 100th birthday, John Levy. Pretty cool. At the NEA, we want to ensure that every American has the opportunity to enjoy our jazz masters in person. And that is why tonight I'm pleased to announce $135,000 is being awarded to 12 organizations around the country that will create live events over the coming year with our NEA Jazz Masters. 4 of these organizations have never before received Jazz Masters live funding: Harlem Stage and Tribeca Performing Arts Center here in New York, Deer Isle Jazz Fest in Maine, and the Healdsburg Jazz Festival in California. It's cool. The other 8 organizations will continue their great work. And this year, 4 of our 5 2012 Jazz Masters will be presented with support from these grants. Arts Midwest is the NEA's partner in managing these grants, and I would like to especially thank David Frere and his staff for their work on this program. And now, I just have one final responsibility before I leave the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce you to the 2012 class of NEA Jazz Masters. Please help me welcome Jack DeJohnette. Von Freeman, represented tonight by his children. Represented by his daughter tonight, Charlie Haden. Sheila Jordan. And Jimmy Owens. And let's have one more round of applause for all of our 2012 NEA Jazz Masters. Now let me head to my seat and let's get started with the 2012 celebration of the NEA Jazz Masters with a tribute to Jack DeJohnette. Thanks so much.
Jack is a master percussionist. He's just gifted. He just has a natural feeling and inspiration for dexterity.
He can be intricate, he can be simple and just straight up driving, grooving. That openness and that breadth is a strong element in Jack's music.
Playing with Jack DeJohnette is elevating. There's a momentum and a lift, a propulsion that you get when you're on the stage with him. You know, the way he listens, and the way he reacts, the way he's supporting not only what you're playing, but the music as a whole.
The best gift that I have is the ability to listen. Not only listen audibly, but also listen with my heart. I've been fortunate enough to be able to play with a lot of musicians and leaders who allowed me to have that freedom.
Chicago was a very fertile ground for musical explorations, and Jack participated in quite a few of those as a young person. There's no doubt that he enhanced and contributed to the growth of a lot of leaders, Sun Ra, AACM, and many others.
Music was crossing over into different areas, dynamics, grooves, freeform. These were the flavors of the day. We took those flavors and mixed them up and came out with our own ways of delivering them.
He's considered a jazz drummer, but really he is one of the world's greatest music creators. He's one of our greatest musicians.
Not every musician can play with everyone and be themselves fully, you know, make a real contribution from a clear point of view. Jack does that.
He brought an approach to improvisational music from a drummer's perspective that really didn't exist before he did it. Miles did that, John Coltrane did that. That's kind of what innovation is about, when you can sort of synthesize things that already are there, but then make something very unique and new from all of those sources.
I just never doubted that I would be successful at doing this, because this just feels like something was coming through me, lifting me up and carrying me. And all I had to do was to acknowledge this gift and put it to use.
Now to introduce Jack DeJohnette, would you please welcome NEA Jazz Master Muhal Richard Abrams.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying I'm honored to have been asked to play this brief intro for Jack DeJohnette. I first met Jack in Chicago in the early 1960s. and I was immediately impressed with his musical energy and fossil versatility. During that period in Chicago, in addition to its robust mainstream activities, Chicago was fertile ground for individuals who wanted to pursue personal directions in music exploration, and Jack was an integral part of that mix. During the ensuing years, Jack's growth in stature has been remarkable. In fact, Jack's significant contributions to the field of music as a leader, sideman, percussionist, and pianist are legendary. Please join with me to welcome NEA 2012 Jazz Master Jack DeJohnette.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I was very happy and excited to know that I had won the NEA Jazz Masters Award, and I want to thank the National Endowment of the Arts for this small, it's very, this is very exciting, very special night, so bear with me. The National Endowment for the Arts for this and all that they do, and they do a lot. Art is so important to the world, and thank goodness we have an organization like the National Endowment that recognizes this. And I'd also like to thank Jazz at Lincoln Center for hosting this event and for their contributions to the arts. To be honored for playing and writing music, something which is my love, joy, and passion, is one of the greatest gifts I could receive. And the fact that Muhal Richard Abrams is here is really poignant for me, since Muhal was integral in my development as a musician as well as a person. He helped me through some of my teenage challenges as well as musically guiding me. I respect him so much, and I am eternally grateful for him being there for me, as are many others. He is a true visionary on many levels. When I came to New York for a weekend in the mid-'60s, when everything was about change, I went uptown to Minton's and sat in on drums with Freddie Hubbard, who played just one of those things, like so fast. It was like, right? So, it was so fast, as everyone knows that era, that was a test. Unfortunately, I had done my homework in Chicago practicing with Max Roach and Clifford Brown. And for me, fortunately, I passed the initiation. So John Patton was in the house, and he hired me as a drummer. And I never went back to Chicago. And of course, the rest is history. But also, I'm very grateful to have grown up in that time when the world was changing so dramatically and so fast. Everything was opening up. Civil rights, women's rights, anti-war protest, the consciousness of the world was rising up, and so was the music. It was an incredible time, and everything felt possible. So it seems to me that once more we are in a momentous time historically. As in the 60s, it is a time of changes and huge paradigm shifts. I believe that music has always played a profound part in the emotional and spiritual development of people, and therefore we as artists have a great responsibility to contribute to the ongoing changes in a positive way and contribute to the future of world peaceful coexistence. And I take this very seriously. The times are different now, and the challenges are different. But one thing that we should never lose is a commitment to the highest level of artistry and integrity an individual can add to the collective voice. In a mediocre world, this is more important than ever. However, I am inspired and happy to know and work with some of the younger musicians coming along who are carrying this forward. I think the future is in good hands, but there is always going to be more work that needs to be done. As in everything, we are one and we are all. It always takes more than one to make things happen, and I have many people to thank who have helped me, supported me, and loved me over the years. My mother, Eva Johnson, who supported my playing and studying music. My Uncle Roy, who exposed me to a lot of music that was going on at that time. My cousins from Chicago, who I love and grew up with. The many, many great musicians who supported me, advised me, and helped bring the best out of me. Too many to name, but they can hear themselves in my music. The business people who have had and have faith in me still, plus all the people who have made the world a better place to live in, are an inspiration to me, and I thank them. Lastly, and most importantly, my immediate family. I have been blessed with two wonderful daughters and a great son-in-law, Farah and Minya, who themselves are trailblazers in their own right, and I am really proud of them. They are some awesome women. As a typical musician of that era, I was gone a lot, but somehow they came through, and that would be a tribute to my wife, Lydia, who for over 40 years has inspired me and helped me to make important decisions in my life and career. She has taught me the value of unconditional love, patience, and being of service to our community. Most importantly, she is one of the most warm, loving, caring human beings that I know. I really feel blessed that she chose me to be her partner in this life. Thank you for hanging in there with me over the years, and I know it hasn't always been easy, and I love you deeply with all my heart. And in closing, I just want to say that we all truly can make a difference in making a better world in the future. Thank you.
And now please welcome NEA Jazz Master Wynton Marsalis.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Jazz encourages interaction. Every moment of improvisation is a moment of firsts, where new insights come and go. Tonight will be a night of many firsts. We're going to be bringing to the bandstand some incredibly talented younger musicians to share the stage with our venerable jazz masters. Some of our esteemed masters will collaborate on the bandstand for the first time. Some will be sitting in with our house band, the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, for the first time. And still others will join together in smaller ensembles for the first time, all in celebration of jazz and of swinging. So please welcome to the stage, in the spirit of discovery, invention, and collaboration, Jazz Masters Ron Carter and Hubert Laws.
For those, hello. Hello. A little bit more. Test. Here we go. Good evening. For those of you who have programs, you probably see listed a segue, 2 pieces. It's listed. Boy, I'm glad I tested this mic. Instead of doing, we're going to do in reverse order what you have in your programs. Instead of Little Waltz first, we're going to do Memory of Many, and then Little Waltz.
Von Freeman's sound is the official Chicago tenor sax sound with that big, brawny, fat sound that just comes at you.
One of the things I've always heard Von say, as long as I've been playing with him, is express yourself, baby. You know, not just to me, but anyone that gets on stage.
We've never rehearsed one time, and we've never looked at a piece of music once ever. Von doesn't even do set lists. Von will just start playing.
It has innovation, experimentation. A big part of that Chicago sound is really pushing the envelope and going beyond what one normally hears.
My music is a spontaneous thing. What I know, and I know that it's a gift. And that's the way I look at it.
Von always talks about his introduction to jazz through his father, who was a police officer in Chicago and a huge fan of jazz. He loved the music, and he loved the people that played the music.
All three boys grew up playing different instruments in music. They all were in the house band at the Pershing, and they played with Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, all the famous cats there.
Bruz was a drummer, and George the guitar player. The three boys all played jazz, and that's how they made their living. Their son plays jazz, that's how he makes his living. I don't think they ever did anything else. I mean, that's it.
You can hear all of Chicago in the sound of Von's music. Chicago is an inseparable part of Von.
I don't think the career thing was as important to him as the music, and so he stayed here where his family was and where he was comfortable. He kept growing as a musician by being here and working steady.
What I think Chicago means for Von is the people that come out to hear him.
What is a guy like Von playing at a little tavern on the south side every Tuesday night with one guitar amp for the whole sound system? He's doing that because he cares about the music and cares about bringing up young guys.
lot of people say I'm very wise. I don't think so. I just think I've been around long enough to see all the cycles change. And there I am. I'm always ahead of it because, see, I've been through it.
Von's in the history books through everybody else. All these guys that are hot shots now, where do they all get it from? They all got it from Von. And he's still here. And he's still blowing, and he's still our guy.
That's it. Thank you.
And now to say a few words about Von Freeman, please welcome NEA Jazz Master, Mr. Benny Golson.
Thank you. There are things that happen in our lives that take permanent residence, and as time goes by, these things tend to coalesce with our psyches. And as we walk those metaphoric corridors, opening doors here and there, we're delighted as we recall these things. With me, it was getting my saxophone at 14 years of age. Of course, it was the summertime, the windows were open, and I always practiced on the front, and all the neighbors wanted to kill me. Then I met a friend who joined me in my living room, John Coltrane, and they wanted to kill 2 people. But we got better. And you know, I met Tad Dameron, became such a close friend. I learned so much from him. And then I joined Bull Moose Jackson and the Buffalo Bearcats. And we found our way to Chicago. And it was there that I heard a saxophone player named Von Freeman. He scared me to death. I thought maybe I'd been wasting my time reading too many comic books. It was time to get serious. Von had something special. He was iconic, I came to realize. But more than that, he went beyond himself. He poured himself out like a gift offering. And that is, he used to conduct jam sessions. And jam sessions were so vital for those who were aspiring to become professional and go on the road and travel from place to place and record and things like that. And as time went by, I noticed that it seemed as though he was probing into the future. He became so big that he was always on my mind all the time. And every time I went to Chicago, I had to touch bases with Von Freeman. Von Freeman is a name that will live past his time, I'm sure, because he had so much talent and he had so much empathy for other musicians, and he's still doing it. And I find that I'm intuitively saying every time I see him, what next? Well, we can only imagine by what he's doing now. And I am honored to be representing him and his being honored because he's so great. And now, to accept the award are his 2 sons, Martin and Chico Freeman.
Thank you. It all began with a 5 to 7-year-old boy standing in front of his father's piano, listening to his father play duets with Louis Armstrong. My father was 5 or 7 years old, and his father, my grandfather, was one of the first black policemen on the Chicago police force, but he was also a musician. His mother, my grandmother, Earl Cree Freeman, was also a gospel singer. And my father grew up listening to Louis Armstrong, who came to Chicago and lived with my grandfather and grandmother during the time he was in Chicago before Louis Armstrong joined the Benny Goodman Band. And during this time, while he was there, my father got a daily dose of Louis Armstrong and my grandfather, George Freeman Sr., playing duets. My first encounter with my father was about the same age when I saw him at the Regal Theater on the stage with Miles Davis and John Coltrane. Of course, I really didn't know what that meant at the time. Later, something else happened. On my block, we had about 30 kids on the block. And my father, the Freeman brothers, with my Uncle George and my Uncle Bruz, held rehearsals in our house. And some of the great musicians in Chicago that played with that band with my father, Ahmad Jamal, Andrew Hill, Leroy Vinegar, and others, came through the house, and I got a chance to listen to them rehearse. My brother and I would sit out there with all 30 of the kids on the block, filling up the porches and the swings and everything and listening from outside. I want to take this opportunity to thank the city of Chicago, the National Endowment for the Arts, and all of those people responsible for acknowledging my father's gift, the gift he received, and the gift he tried to give to the world. I would like to thank the Chicago institutions, the Jazz Institute of Chicago, Lauren Deutsch, the AACM, Douglas Ewart and Janice Ewart, Muhal Richard Abrams, and all of the other people that were so instrumental in helping and supporting my father through all these years. Thank you.
Wow. What a magical moment this is. Would you all agree? But woo, let me tell you, it ain't easy. Those are the words that resonate through my mind because those are the words Pops always would say after blowing a hard session and recording and what have you. And believe you me, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as well as sacrifice, especially for him. But one day I asked Pop, I said, Pops, what gives you the energy and the drive to keep going on? And you know what he told me? He said, for the love of the music. And I said, wow, for the love of the music. And that said, on behalf of Papa Vonsky Freeman, his big brother George, but we call him Baby George, Bruz, who's no longer here, and Chico, who they're passing the torch on to him, and for myself and the entire Freeman family. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank one of the members of my father's group in Chicago who did a lot. His name is Mike Alamana, and he came here, and it's important that he be thanked. Thank you, Mike.
And now please welcome the NEA Jazz Master for whom the Jazz Advocacy Award is named, A.B. Spellman.
Thank you all. In 2011, we said goodbye to some very dear and precious friends. Bob Brookmeyer from the class of 2006, Frank Foster from the class of 2002, and Snooky Young from the class of 2009. We all missed them. But death is cold, and tonight is the warmest night of the year. So let's honor and respect and applaud all of the previously named jazz masters. All of you, your spirit and your genius as music makers are indelible lines on the endless canvas of time. Right now, we'd like to continue with another jazz master composition, this time by a colleague who could not be with us tonight, the great Horace Silver. It's arranged by the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra bassist, Carlos Enriquez. It will feature the magnificent Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, with Jazz Master Wynton Marsalis and fellow Jazz Masters Toshiko Akiyoshi on piano, saxophonist David Liebman, and percussionist Candido Camaro. And the rising young trumpeter Ambrose Akin Musier, Horace Silver's Senor Blues.
When I hear Charlie play the bass, I hear love, sadness, yearning. I hear deep, deep feeling. I hear poetry.
What Charlie functions on is pure instinct. Now, he happens to have the taste, the training, and the creativity to make that work.
He also has helped further the art form, having the bass stand out as a soloist, as an independent musical instrument.
All that he's ever done comes through the superior relationship between him and his instrument. So he played things on the bass that other bass players would not have played.
In the late 50s, early 60s, Charlie was really one of the most revolutionary musicians to emerge in jazz. He had a very fundamental sense of music, and I think he came from his country and folk roots.
His country background made it easier for him to get along with Ornette Coleman, because Ornette Coleman is about as country as you can be. He's not white country, but he's country. That put him right with Ornette Coleman from the moment he met him.
I first heard Ornette at this club on Wilshire Boulevard called The Hague. I said, man, this guy can play, man. I never heard anything like this in my life. This is the way I hear it, you know. I'm hearing music just like this.
The chemistry between Charlie and Ornette was something very beautiful. Somehow they meet in some very unique musical level that not everyone meets in. In the 1960s, Charlie felt very passionate about the fact that there was so much injustice going on. I had felt a burning desire to express himself through music.
When you think of the Liberation Orchestra, it's inseparable with the people who were musicians in it. They collected material from various eras and fashioned it in a way that had its own unique sound.
It was a revolutionary band because it was the first jazz orchestra that spoke specifically not just about racism, but also about the Vietnam War and about war in general, and using that kind of music as a platform for improvisation.
You need someone that has vision and inspiration and a sense of innovation to make the bass speak out to its full potential. There's so many possibilities with that instrument.
And now to say a few words about Charlie Haden, Mr. Stanley Crouch.
Thank you. I'm here as the president of the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation, and I think that in many ways Charlie is very connected to the tradition explained by Louis Armstrong, who said once upon a time that he knew that jazz had to be a folk art because he'd never heard an animal play a horn. And so I think that that Charlie, that the great virtue of Charlie's playing is his sound, because that's the fastest way you can play. It doesn't make any difference when you can actually make a sound out of your horn and not necessarily even play a phrase. That's very fast. When you hear somebody who plays with the level of soul that Charlie Haden plays with, then as soon as you hear his sound, you have a musical experience. And I think that is true of all of our greatest players. They don't need to play a phrase. Now they will, of course, but just that sound, because the sound carries the soul of the player, and it also speaks to the soul of the audience. And when a person has a certain kind of a sound, then they can actually achieve the deep meaning of jazz, which finally is empathy. See, we're obviously in a period that is very dehumanizing, very cold, very mechanical. But jazz provides a symbolic metaphor as an answer to that mechanical, cold quality. And that's in the empathy that players have to have toward one another to actually achieve a sound, to actually express their artistic quality. And their artistry is profoundly expressed by the empathy that they show each other. Now, of course, anybody can play by themselves. Musicians learn how to play by themselves, kind of. But when they actually can hear other people and help them do what they're doing while being themselves, that's an achievement. And that's to me, the most profoundly important quality that jazz added to 20th century, to modern music. That you could put together 4 or 5, however many people you put, and they could listen closely enough to each other to achieve an artistic expression. And so I'm very, very glad now to present Charlie's daughter with his 2012 National Endowment Jazz Masters Award. Petra.
Man, oh man. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to accept this award for my dad, Charlie Haden. He wishes he could be here in person, but his doctors advise him not to travel for a few months longer. He asked me to say a few words on his behalf. He said, keep it short. Keep it short, keep it short. Thank you, NEA, for this wonderful award. I'm deeply honored. I've always felt very fortunate to have been born in this country surrounded by the beautiful music that came from Appalachian and Ozark Mountains, where I was born. Music born of the struggles, the loves and loss of daily life. I was luckily born into a musical household and started singing on my family's radio show when I was 2 years old, singing hymns and folk songs. My mother used to take me to the African American church 1 or 2 Sundays a month so that we could experience the music. My father took me to my first jazz concert when I was 13. A lot of great jazz musicians came from Missouri. Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Jimmy Blanton. I learned at a very young age that music teaches you about life, because when you are in the midst of improvisation, there is no yesterday and no tomorrow. There is just the moment you are in. In that beautiful moment, you experience your true insignificance to the rest of the universe, and it is then that you can experience your true significance. I thank my family, my parents and siblings who began my musical journey with me, and my son Josh and daughters Petra, Tanya, and Rachel, and grandsons Sammy, Tommy, and Chase. I thank my wife Ruth Cameron, without whose dedication and love I would not be here today. I thank all the wonderful musicians who have inspired me over the years, from Bach to Rachmaninoff, to Charlie Parker, to the great Ornette Coleman, and many more throughout the world and throughout the centuries. I am truly humbled. Thank you.
Okay, this is written. In keeping with tonight's collaborative theme, Jazz Masters Let me see. No. In keeping with tonight's collaborative theme, we will hear two fellow jazz masters in a performance of In Your Own Sweet Way, a song penned by our dear friend and fellow jazz master who could not be with us tonight, Dave Brubeck. So, as a duet, please welcome Kenny Barron and Bobby Hutchison.
Jazz to my mom is the air that she breathes, the water that she drinks, the food that she eats. It is everywhere in her life.
At the time I was growing up in Detroit, it was a struggle. It was a terrible struggle because the racial prejudice was not to be believed.
There was still a lot of segregation. There was still a lot of prejudice. It was rough times.
I'd heard Charlie Parker and decided that was the music that I wanted to dedicate my life to. That's what the problem was in the very beginning. There were very, very few white women on the scene that were into jazz.
Talent overrules racism because music is the common denominator.
Sheila was passionate about racial justice, about bebop, and about being free and being true to herself.
Well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, back in 19. I had a senior moment.
My mom was the first vocalist that was ever signed to Blue Note Records.
She was one of only 2 singers that they ever recorded because they weren't interested in vocalists.
Her very first album, Portrait of Sheila, she had the most unique voice that anyone ever heard. It stopped you in your tracks.
Sing, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
It's a style that I guess is as natural to her as breathing.
Sheila, when she's singing, what she's doing is telling a story. It's not about the technique so much. It's about the emotion and about the heart.
The crossing, oh, the crossing.
The basin voice was something that Sheila heard at a very young age. She heard the space and the silence and the sparseness of it, the transparency of the basin voice gives her this beautiful empty canvas to paint on.
It's the people that have no protective barriers between themselves and their vocal cords that can really project a song in that kind of powerful way. And I think that's what makes Sheila one of the unique few.
Sheila just never did anything commercial. She was patient. What does she always say? She said, She supported the music until the music could support her.
I knew my calling was this, and I wanted to keep this music alive. Here I am, almost 83, and working now, and more than I ever worked in my life. I'm one of the lucky ones.
Well, it's the love I have when I'm singing for you. Oh, the spirit of this music sets me free.
We are really, really fortunate to have all of this royalty in the house tonight. And now to introduce Sheila Jordan, please welcome NEA Jazz Master Jon Hendricks.
Thank you very much. Born November 18th, 1928, in Detroit, Michigan, one of America's jazz meccas, including New York City's Harlem, Pittsburgh for pianists, Philadelphia, and as far as the northern-bound car would go, Chicago. A child of America and its cultural jazz flow, Sheila Jordan began right away to utilize her instrument of choice, her voice. And she knew what Duke meant when he said it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And it ain't gonna hurt you if your husband, Duke Jordan, was pianist for Bird, the voice of an entire generation. Something the whole world heard. Our familiar paths have crossed through the years and continue to do so because I'm from Toledo, Ohio. And I've been made Distinguished Professor of Jazz Studies at the University of Toledo. So I'm going to be there a while. And Sheila has half-sisters there and visits them often. Sheila and I also have in common Cherokee Indian blood. The Cherokee being musicians and philosophers of the 7 tribes. Each of us has formed vocal careers utilizing out of the ordinary approaches, probably a shared Cherokee trait. Sheila was also born in the same period as my partner, Annie Ross. My mother was born November 21st, my daughter, Aria, November 22nd, the day they shot Kennedy, a deeply powerful time of the year. We welcome Sheila and all her charms with warm hearts and open arms. You might have heard of the movie, Here Comes Mr. Jordan. Well, we're going to put it in our own words. Here comes Mrs. Jordan, Sheila Jordan.
Thank you. Jon. Jon, for you. Oh, my, ho, hey, ho, hey, yeah, oh, hey, yeah, woo. For our Native American ancestors, that was a little song, prayer of gratitude. I love you. You're the vocalist genius. You are the genius of vocalists. And I love you. Thank you. Oh, I love you, Jon. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, God. Whew. I can't believe I'm here, but I'm glad I am. Thank you so much, everybody. I wanted to first of all thank the NEA for giving me this extraordinary moment. I've had a lot of extraordinary moments in my lifetime, and one of them was the birth of my beautiful daughter, Tracy. And I thank you, Tracy, for all your support. Another great moment was the time that I spent studying with the great Lenny Tristano. And I had a very special moment as a teenager in Detroit when I heard Charlie Parker and his Reboppers on the jukebox. I was a teenager, and that changed my life. And I want to thank Dr. Fred Tillis, and of course, the late Dr. Billy Taylor, and of course, John Lewis, for showing me how to teach. They said, just teach. You learn how to teach from teaching. You guys were right. I'm grateful to all the wonderful young musicians coming up, the singers and the instrumentalists. That makes me know that you're going to keep this music alive. It's so important. So keep at it. Don't give up. There was a very, very important man in my life by the name of George Russell. And George is the reason, one of the reasons that I'm standing up here tonight, because he got me my first recording with Blue Note. And I thank you, George. I know you're up there. And of course, last but not least, you know the man in my life, the one that started all this for me. Do you know his name? Tell me. Will you sing it with me? Charlie Parker was his name. And bebop music was his fame. Here we go. The bird. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bird.
NEA Jazz Master Wynton Marsalis.
Now thank you. We would like to dedicate this next tune to Count Basie and Frank Foster. This, you can give them something. This is Jazz Master Frank West's composition, Magic, which will feature Mr. West and Mr. Benny Golson on tenor saxophones. And Thelonious Monk piano competition winner Chris Bowers.
I think back on all of the people who helped me. The Donald Byrds, the Randy Westons, the Dizzy Gillespies, the Billy Taylors. All of these people who managed to answer my questions when I had questions. When you pass things on to people, You're dealing with education. It is the most positive thing that one can do.
I have been at the New School for 25 years since its inception, and Jimmy has been almost since the beginning. It takes a certain kind of student to really get what Jimmy Owens is offering them, but when they get it, they become his mentee for life.
By 1971, I had been a thorough jazz musician for 10 years. One of the things that I found most important was to start to guide myself and those musicians around me so we could have more of a say in our lives as professional musicians.
Music is a business. As a younger musician, one of the first things that he instilled in me was finances, about spending money, about saving money, and having something for your future.
Jimmy's work with both the Jazz Foundation of America and Local 802 of the American Federation of Musicians has meant that jazz artists in New York have access to health benefits and a little better understanding of how to look out for their own interests.
The reason that we came together was to see if we could do the things that other people in the business were not doing for us.
Jimmy has a passion that you see him represented through his horn. That's the legacy that Jimmy embodies in his teaching, in his playing, and in his advocacy for community.
Jimmy always said, as a musician, you have a responsibility not only to the music, but also to your fellow musicians. That's the essence of Jimmy's work for many, many years.
I think back on my life, and I think about the things that have sparked me to continue in this music. I feel very, very happy that I've been able to be a part of many of these musicians' lives. What keeps me going? Just that fact.
To introduce Jimmy Owens, please welcome NEA Jazz Master, Mr. David Baker.
It is my great pleasure to be here tonight to speak about my dear friend of many years, Jimmy Owens, great player, educator, and champion for jazz and jazz artists. I first heard about Jimmy when he was still in high school. My fellow NEA jazz masters, Donald Byrd and Slide Hampton, told me about a young trumpet player in New York City who could really already play, and who was going to be somebody special. They were talking about Jimmy, and they were right in many ways. Jimmy has had a major career as a performer and recording artist. In addition to leading his own groups, he is one of the few trumpet players of his generation to have played as a sideman with such great band leaders as Lionel Hampton, Hank Crawford, Charles Mingus, Max Roach, Duke Ellington, Billy Taylor, Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, and Gerald Wilson. But it was in our work together in the areas of jazz education and service to the field of jazz as a whole that our personal and professional association and friendship really blossomed. As a young man in his 20s, Jimmy was already in the trenches as an advocate and activist, fighting the good fight for the recognition and support for jazz as the great American art form we all know it to be. I remember with great fondness his time with me, Clark Terry, George Russell, Milt Hinton, Cannonball Adderley, and others, working with the National Endowment for the Arts in its early years for that recognition and financial support for jazz on the national level. Jimmy has gone on to serve the field throughout the years in countless important ways. Especially close to my heart is the work he has done and continues to do on behalf of all jazz musicians, but especially the older members of our jazz community, for access to health care and pension benefits. Jimmy is a man of strong ideas and great personal integrity. He is fearless and tireless in his advocacy and service to the field in all that he does. I am so proud of the man that he is and all and how he has accomplished so much in his long and distinguished career. Jimmy's unending passion to continually set the bar higher, to realize his dreams in this music, has led him to this moment and the richly deserved title, NEA Jazz Masters. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Owens.
First, I'd like to thank the National Endowment for the Arts for bestowing on me the A.B. Spellman Award for advocacy in this great music of ours. And I'm glad they finally got around to naming the award for someone who has been very special to the National Endowment, A.B. Spellman. I cannot say how grateful I am for all of those great musicians who came before me, who laid the foundation for this great music we call J-A-Z-Z. They have given the world the greatest music in the world. It's unfortunate, though, that the world many times has not given them back what they deserve. Right here in our own country, we have things in place that benefit musicians tremendously. In 1959, the American Federation of Musicians started a pension fund. And that pension fund exists today with more than $2 billion in it. That's a small amount of money, but it pays a pension to musicians who've worked in this industry, sometimes as much as $9,000 per month. And I know a few jazz artists who make that kind of money each and every month, and if they should die, their wives will get 50% or 75% of that money for the rest of their lives. It's something very important. But the only problem is jazz artists have been cut out of that pension fund many times because of the kind of work we do and where we do that work. Right now, none of the jazz clubs that you go to and spend your money pay into the musicians' pension fund for those musicians who are working there. And I say none of them because that's the truth. And you know, we went up to Albany, Slide Hampton, Hank Jones, Bob Cranshaw. We went up there and performed for the congressman for them to repeal a tax that you all paid every time you went into a jazz club. And all of the jazz clubs said, yeah, we would like that to happen, so we don't have to pay this 8.25% tax. And they said they would pay that into the musicians' pension fund. The bill got repealed. and all of the clubs reneged. And they are still reneging. Every one of the jazz clubs that we go to as the audience. This is a problem for jazz artists, not being able to build a pension. It's also a problem for the American Federation of Musicians. Now, I've been very, very happy with the things that I have been involved with many others. I mean, how Reggie Workman and Stanley Cowell and Warren Smith came together in 1969, and we formed an organization called the Collective Black Artists that put a number of musicians to work. We did 6 concerts a year at Town Hall and put great musicians, many of them jazz masters, in front of the Collective Black Artists, the CBA ensemble. Many of these musicians usually didn't play in front of a big band. I'm speaking about people like Benny Golson, Ahmed Jamal, Billy Taylor, Ron Carter. Great. I'm also happy with the fact that in 1989, a number of people came together and founded the Jazz Foundation of America and the Jazz Musician Emergency Fund. That organization has done a tremendous amount for numerous jazz artists who were in need. The need could have been a financial need, a health need, a career development problem, a substance abuse problem. We've helped numerous musicians. And we continue today raising money to run a series of programs because of our board of directors, who are some of the most eminent people in the world of finance, and our executive director, Wendy Oxenhorn. So all of these things are areas that I'm very proud of. The people that I came up with who helped me, the Randy Westons, the Billy Taylors, the Dizzy Gillespies. I think about them all the time. I'd like to make a special tribute, first off, to my wife, Stephanie, for being there to help me for a number of years. And a tribute to those jazz masters who are no longer physically with us. All of them. But from my heart, this is for Billy Taylor. I'd like to bring to the stage jazz master from 1998, Mr. Ron Carter, and our jazz masters from 2012, Miss Sheila Jordan and Mr. Jack DeJohnette. We'd like to perform a composition by one of the NEA jazz masters, Mr. Ornette Coleman. This is entitled, When Will the Blues Leave?
I saw you in the lobby, and you were looking fine. I haven't seen you in a long, long time.
And once again, please welcome National Endowment for the Arts Chairman, Mr. Rocco Landesman.
Wow. Whew. How about one last hand for the 2012 Jazz Masters? Jack DeJohnette, Von Freeman, Charlie Haden, Sheila Jordan, and Jimmy Owens. And how about that Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra? Thank you, Wynton. Please join me in thanking our presenters tonight, as well as all of the staff of Jazz at Lincoln Center and the NEA. I would like to especially thank Wayne Brown, the NEA's Director of Music and Opera, and his colleague, Katja von Schutenbach. I hope you will join us shortly in the atrium just outside to meet the amazing people who have appeared on stage tonight. The gift shop is even open and stocked with CDs and books by many of our jazz masters. But before we send you out, let's hear one final performance. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra in a performance of NEA Jazz Master Benny Carter's Again and Again. Thanks.
Sherman Irby. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you all very, very, very much. Have a good night. Thank you.